The Grandview is funded in part by
Plein Air Magazine, for people who love painting outdoors. pleinairmagazine.com.
You know, if you guys had a group that, like, let's say every Friday, you would get together and paint for a while and then have lunch or something, that is really the best. The reason why I give homework assignments is so that you paint at home. So you do some work at home. And if I didn't give homework assignments, some of you would just have your paint sitting in your car the entire week until you come back to class again. So it does kind of give you a reason to go and paint and do something during the week. So that's totally awesome. The thing with painting outdoors, it's a fad, you know, it's a new fad. I've been preaching for 30 years to paint outdoors, but it's a new fad. And awesome that you guys are doing it, because it's a wonderful pastime. Wasn't it nice?
Oh, it's fabulous. Now I almost hate to paint inside.
We went to Baumann.
Oh, I did.
The key to becoming successful with outdoor painting, first, is to decide what size of canvas you're going to be. What kind of artist you're going to be, what size. My recommendation for everybody is 9 by 12 or 12 by 16. Not bigger. You can go smaller if you want, depending on if you're going to paint in small confined areas, if you're going to travel with horses and you're going to go backpacking, you may want to go smaller. But 9 by 12 is a really good size. Choose a size and stick with it. When you start changing, like you went with a 16 by 20, it's first thing almost too much to take on in a short period of time. You are expected to paint a painting in 2 to 3 hours. The mere fact of covering the canvas, like Lucy's painting, which is so large, she's lucky she gets this much done in one class, let alone, and it takes her a lot longer to get a canvas covered because her canvases are humongous. Small canvases can be done in a much quicker period of time. So one of the secrets with plein air painting is not take on too much, or be reasonable with what you can take. And if you have consistently the same size, you can get a box to put them in your car, because when you are traveling or working outdoors, the problem that you have is wet canvases and what to do with them. So Raymar produces a box that you can slide your canvas in, and I have seen more paintings destroyed from the easel outdoors on their way back to the car. Okay? Because you've got all your junk and you got a wet canvas to boot. So you got one canvas here, you got all your junk here, you got your umbrella underneath you, and you're carrying everything down. And you know, undoubtedly this gets scraped on a tree, or wind pops up and flies off your hand and lands in the parking lot belly side of it up. So you want to have something to put it in. And so if you decide you're going to do 9 by 12, you go to Raymar and you get yourself a gator board 9 by 12 box. It's very narrow. You can put 6 paintings into it. You can fling it over your shoulder. What's great is then when you're at your car and you're tired, you just fling it in the back of the car. Nothing happens to it. You might not get to it another 3 or 4 days, so you want to unpack. The painting is secure. Meanwhile, you could have gone to the grocery store and put your groceries in there, and nothing's happened to the painting. So you want to be kind of sure that you have something to put the painting in when you leave. If you have 9 by 12s or 12 by 16s, they're easy to stack in the corner of your back of your trunk. So you could actually have them handy when you buy them. You know, so you could have one size. So if you kind of pick a size and stick with it, it's really the best. If you decide to go on a trip, having 2 or 3 different sizes of canvas becomes cumbersome, because now you're stacking things in the back seat, your dog is rolling over them, your husband's getting paint on the luggage. So you really want to kind of maintain the same style. to lower your expectations when you go out to paint. Less is more. Like you did the fountain. What would have been really beautiful is just to do the fountain, just by itself. That in itself, learning to draw, being curious about just drawing that scene and getting the shadows behind it and the lighting effect on the fountain would have been far more successful than to paint the entire garden with the pond and the fountain in there. You just take on too much, especially if you haven't practiced a lot. There's enough things that you need to deal with, or even unanticipated things. So you might go out on location, you decide, oh, I've got 4 hours to paint. So you start there and you say, I'm going to do a big scene, like you did. You chose a big scene, big canvas. And then you're sitting there painting, and all of a sudden a ranger taps you on the shoulder and says, excuse me, you're not allowed to do that here. You know? You're halfway through your painting and you have to leave. So you have these unexpected things that happen. You know, all of a sudden a rainstorm can happen, or, you know, something can happen. You get a phone call, your husband, you want to be reasonable to start a painting that's not overly complicated and something that you can be successful with, because ultimately whether or not you're going to be a plein air painter depends on whether or not you're successful. And if you go out and take on a huge challenge, complicated scenes, big canvases, unorganized, you will hate it. That will turn you away from doing it in the first place. So you want small canvases, small supplies, small expectations, limited subject matter until you master it. It's a very difficult medium to grasp, and it can be so overwhelming, and you could be so unsuccessful for so long that you'll just throw up your hands and say, forget it. Okay, so keep it simple. You had a question?
When you said about the ranger coming, for this particular time that was going to happen because I called ahead and I knew exactly what they expected.
Yeah, and that's actually smart.
And that's what I'm going to do every time. I mean, because you could show up and then you're turned away, like Philip Flowley Gardens. They used to always say only watercolor.
Yeah, and I still think it's probably like that. So you want to
check ahead.
If you're going to go to an estate like Villa Montavo or Flowley, be sure to call, because they do monitor. They don't want to have, and oil painters unfortunately have had a really bad rap. You know, even when I went to the convention in Point Lobos, you know, the Plein Air convention, they opened up Point Lobos for the artist, and the following year they didn't welcome him because of the artist felt, well, since I'm here, I don't have to obey the fences and the walkway things. So they were in, you know, off in the protected areas. So you know, and then what happens is that they don't get invited again. And then when artists do show up, immediately rangers come in and go, step back, do this. So you make you feel like you're unwelcome. So it's a good idea to check with that. If Flowley has only a watercolor policy, because they know that the oil painters used to go up there and their paints would fall over, and you would have these wonderful tiles, and now you had oil paint all over them. And turpentine and roses don't work very well. So that's why they limited that. National parks, if you go as a group, they're going to be very leery, because now they want you to have permits, because that's how they make money. So a lot of the national parks will want you to have a permit to paint. You're not quite as free as you used to be. And then there are places where you absolutely cannot paint, like on Carmel, on 17 Mile Drive, the Cypress Point. That is actually forbidden to paint. You're allowed to take photographs of it. You can paint it, but you can't sell the painting because it belongs to, they have the copyright on. How you can copyright anything that God owns, I have no idea. Yeah. And they're like so poor for money. Pebble Beach is so poor for money that they have to worry about their logo being sold by some artist in town.
When they did that, because we went to paint over there.
Yeah, we did.
No, you can go paint, but it really isn't. They could ask you to leave, and you have to go. It is private property. Yeah. So I've gone there a few times, but you can't sell the painting afterwards either. So doing a little research ahead of time is pretty good. To go on with a group is also very good too, because you don't know what's going to happen when you're by yourself. So that was good. But it was really awesome that you guys went. So that was really cool.